Haribo. Krishna Krishna. I've been reading, continuing, because of Ram Navami, they didn't finish chapter 10 of Canto 9, so I'm continuing. Canto 9, chapter 10, starting with verse number, looks like it's 16, yes? 16. There's some purport. There's some purports and there's some without purports. I'm just going to read a bunch and let's see what happens. Shukadeva Goswami said, after constructing a bridge over the ocean by throwing into the water the peaks of mountains whose trees and other vegetation had been shaken by the hands of great monkeys, Lord Ramachandra went to Lanka to release Sita Devi from the clutches of Ravana with the direction and help of Vibhishana, Ravana's brother. The Lord, along with the monkey soldiers, headed by Sugriva, Nila, and Hanuman, entered Ravana's kingdom, Lanka, which had previously been burnt by Hanuman. Purport. Great mountain peaks, covered with trees and plants, were thrown into the sea by the monkey soldiers and began to float. By the supreme will of the Lord, by the supreme will of the Lord, many great planets float weightlessly in space, like swabs of cotton. If this is possible, why should great mountain peaks not be able to float on water? This is the omnipotence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can do anything and everything he likes because he is not under the control of material nature. Indeed, material nature is controlled by him. Maya Jakshena Prakriti Suyase Sacharacharam. Only under his direction does Prakriti or material nature work. Similar information is given in the Brahma Samhita. Yasyaki Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, describing how material nature works. The Brahma Samhita says that the sun moves as desired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, for Lord Ramachandra to construct a bridge over the Indian Ocean with the help of monkey soldiers who threw great mountain peaks into the water is not at all wonderful. It's not at all wonderful. It is wonderful only in the sense that it has kept the name and fame of Lord Ramachandra eternally celebrated. Text 17. After entering Lanka, the monkey soldiers, led by chiefs like Sugriva, Nila, and Hanuman, occupied all the sporting houses, granaries, treasuries, palace doorways, city gates, assembly houses, palace frontages, and even the resting houses of the pigeons. When the city's crossroads, platforms, flags, and golden water pots on its domes were all destroyed, the entire city of Lanka appeared like a river disturbed by a herd of elephants. When Ravana, the master of the Rakshasas, saw the disturbances created by the monkey soldiers, he called for Nikumbha, Kumbha, Dumraksha, Durmukha. Durmukha, what a name. Whew. Surantaka, Narantaka, and other Rakshasas, and also his son, Indrajit. Thereafter he called for Prahasta, Aikaya, Aitikaya, Vikampana, and finally, Kumbhakarna. Then he induced all his followers to fight against the enemies. Lord Ramachandra, surrounded by Lakshmana and monkey soldiers like Sugriva, Hanuman, Gandha, Madha, Nila, Angada, Jambavan, and Panasha, attacked the soldiers of the Rakshasas, who were fully equipped with various invincible weapons like swords, lances, bows, prasas, rushtis, shakti arrows, khadgas, and tomaras, whatever those things are. Text 20. Angada and the other commanders of the soldiers of Ramachandra faced the elephants, infantry, horses, and chariots of the enemy and hurled against them big trees, mountain peaks, clubs, and arrows. Thus the soldiers of Lord Ramachandra killed Ravana's soldiers, who had lost all good fortune because Ravana had been condemned by the anger of Mother Sita. Whew. Don't cross Sita, you're in trouble. Purport. The soldiers of Lord Ramachandra, recruited in the jungle, were all monkeys and did not have proper equipment with which to fight the soldiers of Ravana, for Ravana's soldiers were equipped with weapons of modern warfare, whereas the monkeys could only throw stones, mountain peaks, and trees. It was only Lord Ramachandra and Lakshmana who shot some arrows, but because the soldiers of Ravana were condemned by the curse of Mother Sita, the monkeys were able to kill them simply by throwing stones and trees. There are two kinds of strength, Daiva and Purushakara. Daiva refers to the strength achieved from the transcendence, and Purushakara refers to strength organized by one's own intelligence and power. Transcendental power is always superior to the power of the materialist. Depending on the mercy of the Supreme Lord, one must fight one's enemies, even though one may not be equipped with modern weapons. Therefore, Krishna instructed Arjuna, Ma manusmara yudhyacha, think of me and fight. We should fight our enemy to the best of our ability, but for victory, we must depend upon the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's lots of chivalrous talk in this, in Ramayana, but it's nice. A couple more. Text 21. Thereafter, when Ravana, king of the Rakshasas, observed that his soldiers had been lost, he was extremely angry. Thus he mounted his airplane, which was decorated with flowers, and proceeded toward Lord Ramachandra, who sat on the effulgent chariot brought by Matali, the chariot driver of Indra. Then Ravana struck Lord Ramachandra with sharp arrows. Lord Ramachandra said to Ravana, "You are the most abominable of the man-eaters. Indeed, you are like their stool." He's trying to incite his anger. It's going to work. "You resemble a dog, for a dog steals eatables from the kitchen in the absence of the householder. In my absence, you kidnap my wife Sita Devi. Therefore, as Yamaraj punishes sinful men, I shall punish you. You are most abominable, sinful, and shameless today. Therefore, I, whose attempt never fails, shall punish you." Purport. Na cha daivat param balam. No one can surpass the strength of the transcendence. Ravana was so sinful and shameless that he did not know what the result would be of kidnapping Mother Sita, the pleasure potency of Ramachandra. This is the disqualification of the Rakshasas. Asatyam apratishtam te jagadahur anishwaram. The Rakshasas are unaware that the Supreme Lord is the ruler of the creation. They think that everything has come about by chance or accident and that there is no ruler, king, or controller. Therefore, the Rakshasas act independently as they like, going even so far as to kidnap the goddess of fortune. This policy of Ravana's is extremely dangerous for the materialist. Indeed, it brings ruin to the materialistic civilization. Nevertheless, because the atheists are Rakshasas, they dare to do things that are most abominable, and thus they are punished without fail. Religion consists of the orders of the Supreme Lord, and one who carries out these orders is religious. One who fails to carry out the Lord's orders is irreligious, and he is to be punished. Crime and Punishment, Tolstoy. Not a new theme, but worldly sense of crime and punishment is minus, it's materialistic, is minus who is behind, what's really what law is. So many times, dharmam hi sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Dharma is given by Bhagavan. And to be religious means to follow the law of Bhagavan. And law breakers, or the adharmic persons, are those that don't have regard. So therefore, in a materialistic society, people make laws, that's fine, without consideration of the lawmaker. They don't align their laws with the laws of the Supreme. And so it's a mess. It's problematic. And on the one hand, and on the other hand, in many cases, Prabhupada would say, what can be done? And the other side is the Supreme Lord will come and punish the wrongdoers. Now, we're not, most of us at least, aren't Kshatriyas. So our position is to look to the Kshatriyas. And who are the real Kshatriyas? They're not around. They're people that have some authority, but they're not divinely empowered authorities. Largely. There may be some exceptions, and that's very nice. Those exceptions are very nice. But largely, as time passes, etc., the deterioration of theism and the empowerment that comes from Daiva diminishes. So then here we are in Kali Yuga, reading about Ramayana when the good old days, or when Ramachandra ruled, and when Rakshasas, or those who steal the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, the consort of Lord Ramachandra, how bold. There's consequences. Now, there's no consequences today? There's consequences, but it's topsy-turvy. Therefore, the remedy for theistic people, those are dharmic people, those that want to follow the codes of dharma, take shelter of the personality of Godhead, despite, as the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavatam, an atmosphere is surcharged with opposition. Like this yesterday evening, the discussion about Vibhishan. How'd you like to be Vibhishan? Living with your brother who's demon number one, and trying to advise demon number one, don't be a demon. You're violating the codes of conduct. So please don't do that. At the risk of life, to say those words to Ravana, or the person that has that disposition. I mean, there are little tiny Ravanas all over the place, without naming names. There's little tiny Ravanas all over the place. And they're big figures, and they're in the news, and people know about what they're up to. And some persons are less Ravana-like, some are more Ravana-like. But there's not a place of shelter. A little sharing on this topic. In one temple, it was the Phoenix Temple, Phoenix, Arizona. A little warmer than Boston. This young man, dressed in his Navy uniform, had just finished his undergraduate study. He had become an enlisted man in the U.S. Navy. He was going off to, I guess, boot camp or something. And he wanted blessings. So we had this nice discussion. And I said, I'd like to give you good advice. I have some sense, but let me discuss with others. So offline, I discussed with Naranjana Maharaj, dear godbrother, and Achyuta Priya, the regional supervisor for Ukraine, because they're dealing with war. It's not just possible. It's so. What advice could you suggest that I could give to this young man? Is there going to be, if in the course of my being an enlisted man, I have to kill people, is there karma for me? I mean, I knew the answer, but I wanted to hear how they would advise this young man. And they apparently, I got answers. It was nice, because they're both very busy, very, very busy, and other things, Naranjana Maharaj's health and things like that. But there was a reply, kind reply, and essentially they said, this is a big issue in the Ukraine, so don't repeat me. Because it's a big issue, and they don't want to, because there's people on both sides. It's like someone invades your house and wants to usurp your house, or your wife, or something, your children. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? By codes of dharma, you don't just look the other way or say Shanti. You do something. So there are those that say Ukrainians should enlist. I mean, I just bringing the conversation that's here to modern. So we don't have, at least in the moment, maybe tomorrow there'll be a war, but in the moment there's something, it's something over there. So we don't have to decide because it's something over there. But there's aggression that goes on all over the place. And what do you do when there's aggression that goes on? And it's right under your nose. Or, in this case, your countrymen. And, and devotees have been killed in the war. And, not just devotees and citizens that are and without all the picture, it's a tough call. Should this side and that side? There's people on this side and that side. If the cause is under a divine king, then there's no question. And if there isn't a divine king, where's the divine king? Then what do you do? And there's an aggressor that's entered into your house. What do you do? And aside from that international, one nation and another nation, so an international issue, there are transgressors of propriety in our modern circumstance. And what do you do? Yeah, certainly you align yourself with dharma. But if it's something that's bigger than just you and, facing dharma or adharma, if it's something that's, the scope is much bigger, what are you going to do? How are you going to decide what to do? Not easy. So, our platform is Chant Hare Krishna. And with the confidence that the protection that's required will come from the Supreme Protector. We have our storybook examples, Haridas Thakur and Prahlad Maharaj, and storybook examples. But what about contemporary, situations? Here's one. I just happened to read it because I get all these different messages, and sometimes I read them. This message came from the Sankirtan newsletter, global Sankirtan newsletter, Vijay Prabhu, who sends out this global Sankirtan newsletter. So it was a book distribution story. The book distribution story was, in Eastern Europe, this is modern stuff. In Eastern Europe, there were book distributors, didn't say the country, but they were in a place and they were distributing books. And there were some fanatical Christian priests that tore into them. And da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And, the devotees were fearless. So the fanatical Christian missionaries approached some gang members and induced the gang members to go get him. It didn't say payment or what was done, but then the gang members they had weapons in their hand, and they came to where the Sankirtan party was distributing books, and they started to attack them. And there was one in that group that was the leader of the devotee group, and he made a decision. The decision he made was he would start calling the gang members different names, like Ramachandra is doing here to Ravana. And it worked because they turned their attention away from the Sankirtan party, and they just focused their attention on the guy. And he did this in part because the way the story goes, he was a fast runner, and he ran, and he outran them. But he didn't run so fast they couldn't keep following him, so that they would keep following him. And it took them away from the Sankirtan party, so the Sankirtan party is safe, the gang is chasing him. However, when he was running, he went to a place where it was a dead end. And they were rubbing their hands together and holding their weapons and charging him. So he sat down, the way the story reads, he sat down in a lotus posture and started loudly calling out Nrsimha prayers. Doesn't say which ones, but I can guess. With his eyes closed. And then the noise stopped. Some time passed, he opened his eyes, and the gang members were gone. He didn't know what happened, but the gang members were gone. So he went back and told the Sankirtan party, "Hari Bol, guys, problem's over." 2 years later, they're back at their main temple, and in the main temple, one young man came up to this leader and said, "When you were in such and such remote place, I was with a group of gang members that tried to harass you and disturb you and run." I said, "Really?" And I was there. Because he didn't recognize the person, he just remembered he was recounting, he had felt repentance. So he was confessing and seeking forgiveness. He said, I was the guy. What happened?" I said, "Oh. As we were approaching you with our weapons in our hand, this furry, the way the description goes, furry creature with big fangs and big nails was roaring, and we saw this creature and we ran." Lord Nrsimha protected him. So don't count on it. But that's what happened. This is real time. This is real time. Real, unless the Sankirtan devotee just made up the story, but it's a good story even if he made it up. And it's not a surprise because crazy people do crazy things. And does Lord Nrsimha really protect the devotees? I mean, not necessarily in that exact way, but in whatever the way. And supposing they got hurt, that can happen also. There may be some stories like that. But whatever is however the scenario plays itself out, in the background, the personality of Godhead is there, and he's going to offer protection unto those who take shelter of him. And what that protection looks like, it's not a cookie cutter. The protection's going to look like this, or it's going to look like that, or the other thing. But it's that's just an example of in real time, and who knows how many other examples and other examples. Is Krishna real, and is Krishna going to offer his protection, however that is, however he deems is appropriate for the situation? That he's always there. So, how to make Ramayana relevant to our modern lives? There's a protector behind events, and in this particular case, even the demigods headed by Lord Brahma couldn't handle Ravana, so they went to the shore of the milk ocean. They did what they did, and he did what he did, and so then there's the Ramayana. And so it may not be so extreme that the demigods become disturbed and they go to the personality. So it can be something lesser than that, but the personality of Godhead will always protect. And that's a principle. And always protect doesn't mean you're not going to get any scratches. or bumps, or worse. But protection, and ultimately, ultimately protection means spiritual protection. Going to Canto 1, Chapter 2, there's nothing material that can create and nothing material that can impede or block bhakti. It doesn't create it or destroyed by something material. So it's real. And the Ramayana and this section of the Bhagavatam and the whole of the Bhagavatam is teaching us that same principle. Just like yesterday, the principle of taking shelter. Because without taking shelter, one isn't going to understand all of this anyways. Only by bhakti can one understand the personality of Godhead. Clear from Bhagavad Gita and from practical experience. And is it possible to take shelter of the personality of Godhead? Well, we may have one foot in this boat and the other foot in that boat and try to cross the river. Not a good idea. You'll end up in the river. Both feet in the boat. And so that may take a while, but that's the procedure. And then one can feel protected. One can realize the protection that's always there. Always. Again, protection doesn't mean you don't get bumps and bruises, or there's no cuts or scrapes, or then nothing happens. Something may happen. That's okay. But what's the protection? Ultimately the protection is from forgetfulness of the personality of Godhead. And when there's remembrance of the personality of Godhead, then what's the destination? That's protection. Even if the body is dismantled. Even if. Because then eventually it's going to be dismantled. So protection is to keep that intact. And then that's the protection. I mean, ultimate protection. And then there may be, layers on the mind and the physical, the subtle and the gross configurations of matter. Protection. It's nice to talk about. Then it's another thing when circumstance happens and it's like, So then what happens? And therefore, I'll end with this. Therefore, there are circumstances in life that are extreme, or wake-up calls, or Krishna's knocking on the door, Krishna's examining. Here's a little Prabhupada story. It's a simple one. Henry Street, Brooklyn. Prabhupada's up on this very elevated Vyasa-san, and we're in the temple room. He's speaking Bhagavatam class in the morning, and a very memorable little section of the class, Prabhupada said, "We may say to Krishna, I want to surrender unto you. And Krishna may consider, Krishna may consider, oh, he wants to surrender it to me? What about a little sense gratification, And then Prabhupada raised his arm, turned his head away, and said, no, I only want you. And then Krishna may say, maybe he really does want me. What about a little difficulty, And then the devotee will say, if you want to bring me difficulty, so be it, but I want you. And then Krishna may say, oh, he really wants me. Let me give myself to him. Now, that's a little example of difficulties may come in different shapes and forms and times and circumstances. Who knows when? And here it is. And then what are you going to do? Krishna's examining. Do you really want me? Are you sure? And so there may be some period of examining. Krishna's examining. I mean, it's not like he's got a calculator out and he's keeping track of how you respond. It's just there's personal exchanges where he'll give us shelter. He'll give us shelter if we really want his shelter. And if we want it 30%, it's 30%. We want it 80%, 80%. So taking shelter, part of reading the Bhagavatam, and of course right in the Bhagavatam, here's Ramachandra's pastimes. It's to inspire us to know the personality of Godhead and how he deals with circumstances of life, and he'll take care of it, ultimately. However he does it, that's up to him. But the protection is there. The power is there, just like the discussion yesterday, Shakti and Saralata. Simplicity and potency. He's got it. And so what do we want? Then it comes the other side. What's our shelter? Besides mixed. So most of us are mixed. Not fully. And then there's some bumps in the road. Welcome to the Bumps in the Road Club. And then it gives us an opportunity to go further and further and further. And the protection is there, even up to Ravana. And then the battle between Ravana and Ramachandra is about to happen. But next visit, I guess. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any discussion? Yeah.
Guru Maharaj, as a part of the protection of the Supreme Lord, is it possible that we can pray to the Supreme Lord to change the free will of another living entity? If that living entity is really, I can see that they're headed for a ditch, and then we pray for the living entity. Is it possible?
You certainly. Your question is, can you pray like that? Sure, you can pray like that.
But usually Krishna does not interfere with the free will of another.
No, but that's two different questions. Your first question is, can you pray like that? You can pray like that. Is Krishna going to interfere? That's another question.
So my main question is that, can Krishna respond to the prayer by really changing the free will of another?
Not by change. He doesn't do that.
Right.
He can give, he can do many things, but he doesn't interfere. He can do many things, but he doesn't interfere. And the choice is always with the living entity to choose. Free will is not taken away. Can circumstances be created where they modify their free will choice? Yes. But still, the free will choice is intrinsic. It's of the soul.
Yeah.
And I know some people that are stubborn. Ravana was one. Stubborn. And, then the consequences.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the wonderful class. Maharaj, one question pertaining to, there are different forms of the Lord. like different forms of Supreme Lord, and I see different devotees take shelter of different forms. Like someone prays intensely to Nasimdev, someone to Gaur Nitai, and someone maybe to Radha Krishna, and someone even to Prabhupada. Like whenever anything comes to their heart, they just call out. So is there something like under which circumstances, which form of the Lord we pray for the thing? Because I get many times confused. We hear in different places, okay, for this you approach Gaur Nitai, for this you approach Guru. So which prayers is to be supposed
It's
to
just
be
not a rule. Someone that's saying like that is making a rule. It's not a rule. It's the heart. So where one's disposition is. I mean, it's a good way. It's a good way for you or me or any one of us to have a clear sense of where our feelings of real shelter are. You know, when someone steps on your toe, then it comes out. It could just be ouch, or slap the person or something. But you know, if there's, where's your shelter? And supposing you don't have a clear sense, then it's not going to be an utterance or an extension of the heart. So it's what's in the heart. It's not a rule. For this, you go there, then for that, you go there, and for the other, you go to another place. Nice try, but it's not how it works.
Thank you, Maharaj. Just a small follow-up.
Yeah.
So the same prayer can be asked to Guru and Krishna. Is it non-different? Any prayer
Well,
that
it's non-different and different. You know that Guru isn't Krishna and Krishna isn't Guru, but there's a non-difference at the same time. Well, I can explain it further, but you understand. You go to the representative of, and it's as good as going to the person who they're representing, because the person who's representative of doesn't see themselves as independent if they're actually the representative of. So it gets transmitted directly. It's like yesterday, Vibhishan approached Sugriva, and Sugriva was a hard-noser. He was like, no. And then even Ramachandra said it was still no. And his skitterishness was understandable after what he'd been through with Vali and everything. So then Ramachandra did what he did, and Sugriva said, okay. So, and then it was Sugriva that went to inform him, please let him know I've accepted him. So, representative of. Or but it's Ramachandra. But even it's the representative of. It's the place of shelter. You want to hear more, or that's good? You want to hear some more on this topic, or that's good?
No, I got the clarity.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much for a wonderful class, and also
for bringing you nice weather from Calcutta to Boston. It snowed in New York 9 inches yesterday.
Oh, really?
At least that's what the news said. But welcome.
We'd like to welcome you to.
I know. No promise. I'm not going to give you a no. I'm going to give you a no promise. Don't twist my arm, please. Go ahead.
So, you were talking about this. Some devotee trying to join in navy or something, going to war or something.
Yeah, right.
So I just a couple of weeks back, I received an email about one devotee, and on behalf of Ukrainian devotees, sending mail about complaints about Russian leaders and devotees about encouraging them to fight the war. So I was just thinking, if somebody is in army, what can they do, because that is their profession, and how
What's their shelter? What's their shelter? There's, it's the Arjuna factor, us and them. And who's the virtuous one?
no one.
No one.
So it's like
It's an issue in the Ukraine.
So I was just thinking, I was feeling a little pain to see that there is misunderstanding between Russian devotees and Ukrainian devotees. It was very painful to see that.
It's
so I was just thinking, what can be done so that things can
Yadyad acharati shreshtas. That's what you do. And recognize when you're doing the Shrestha program, there are going to be people on both sides that say, boo, because they're entrenched over, it's even in devotee circles. It is, that exact point is going on without belaboring. And so it's a hot issue. For the time being, it's really hot. It's because without the becauses. Innocent people, etc., etc., etc. We can't just stand by. What are you going to do? And it's not just there. There's another place, and then another place, and then another place, and another, Pakistan, and another place that you know about those. So then another place, then another place. What do you do? What do you do? It's Kali Yuga. What do you do? Yuga Dharma. You elevate consciousness. That's something we can do. The area of concern, the area of influence. You do what you can do. And it's more like just here. It's more powerful than the material. And if you have faith, that's what you do. And with faith, you realize it's true. Is it possible to back to your question? It's possible to transform the choices people are making based on higher consciousness. Prabhupada did it directly, and then we can, collectively can do it. At a large scale, or a broad scale at least. And that's what we do. And Kali Yuga goes on. The winter in Boston, it's cold. It goes on. So what do? Besides dress warm. You don't dress like that in Calcutta. No way. So, according to the situation, but the core principle is consciousness, and by consciousness-based activity, then influence the consciousness of others by association, and broadcasting that message through book distribution, Harinam, Prasadam distribution, and so forth. That's what we do. Yuga Dharma. That's what we do. And then there's going to be two sides that say this and that. And I agree with you. I mean, who wouldn't agree with you? That when devotee says, that devotee over there is shaking their finger and pointing and blaming and shaming and stuff, they really missed the point. Frustration, okay, but that really missed the point. So then to come back to faith and what you do when there's a confrontation of some big challenge, whether it's Ravana or, this one or that one. And those things happen in life. There's little Hiranyakashipus and little Ravanas. They're all over the place. What do you do? Now, in some cases, some practical action is needed. And in all cases, the spiritual principle is to be applied. So if you do something or don't do something, that's maybe. But one principle, one fundamental principle, we stick with it. Okay. Back there.
Guru Maharaj, on this point of shelter and protection, I was thinking that how much of role my awareness of Krishna's protection and shelter plays in feeling his shelter and protection. So, for example, even for Ravana, like Lord Rama was ready and probably even giving him shelter and protection at any point of time. But it's his awareness, lack of awareness of that shelter was kind of stopping him or inhibiting him from feeling that shelter. So I'm just, is that a correct understanding? And
well, it's just simplified. The covering was so powerful, mainly lust and pride. And so strong that the sense of shelter is, it's not even a blip on the screen. Shelter. So, coverings of pure consciousness are in degrees, and when the coverings are there, one can't see because of the covering, because when the consciousness is covered, so there's no sense of protection. My arms will protect me, and my those that group around me will protect me. That's my protection. My family and friends and army and protectors and so forth.
so, Maharaj, is it like Krishna is always giving his shelter?
He's prepared, but what do we want? And shelter may be something else, a bang on the head.
And from my side, I should keep on praying that, Lord, please offer me your protection.
Well, yes, and some other things too. Mm-hmm. Like what your capacity is, and according to your capacity, you serve. It's in addition to knowing, it's also doing. It's my point. Prabhupada would say, it's jnana and vijnana. We have to know and we have to do. So he's our protector. Now, what are you supposed to do? He's my protector.
Thank you.
Okay. Two more questions, and that's it.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I'm just taking this question ahead. You spoke about devotees who are not practicing pure devotional service, or the mixed in their practice.
Yeah.
So generally we see that we want to take shelter of Krishna and we want to surrender to Krishna also. But at the same time, we are hooked to our previous bad conditionings.
Yeah.
And they stop us from taking complete shelter of Krishna. So in that situation, it's like very challenging to understand how much protection one is getting,
No,
from.
and it's not challenging to understand, proportionate to. You know, back to his first question. Krishna doesn't interfere. I've got the 70% I'm with Krishna, 30% my foot's in the other boat. And Krishna doesn't interfere. He reciprocates. Okay. I'll encourage you 100%. But you want the 30% in material, okay? He doesn't interfere. So it's not difficult to understand. It's difficult to go the 100%, but it's not difficult to understand what's Krishna's protection. He's kind. He doesn't interfere. He encourages and he sends messages and messengers and this and that. But he doesn't interfere.
Yeah. And other thing is, then how do we increase our surrender more?
Oh, you know
during
the
that
answer.
time?
Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti. Keep going. The process of devotional service in good association and sincerely. And that's what Krishna's looking. Do you really want me? Are you sure?
Yes.
Hmm?
Yes, we want.
I mean, then that's between you and Krishna.
Yeah.
But he may not be whispering in your ear, but he's examining and encouraging and sending.
And he's always testing also.
Well, he's not like not like he doesn't know, but the test is for us, so we can know.
Okay.
And if our light's on, if we're honest, then we'll know. And if our light's not on, we're just like half closed, half open eyes, then we're going to see some things and not see some other things. That's why Sadhu Sangha is so important. Someone can be your best friend who, using Anuttama's phrase. This is one of Anuttama's phrases. Appreciation, room for improvement, appreciation. Not just room for improvement in hammering, but encouraging. Keep going. You have your blind spots, Prabhu. Did you know that? You got some blind spots? Did you know that? I'm your friend. And it's not like I'm just gonna do open heart surgery on you right now, but there's room for improvement. And you have friends that they can say that to you, and they know the door is open for them to say that to you, and you hear it, and it goes in, and you thank them. It's like this prayer for Krishna to help you. So that can come through in the form of a friend that says, and then where do you go from there? You go towards Krishna. Okay. Last question back here. You got to come forward.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You said that because of Sita's curse, the Vanaras could kill the Ravan's soldiers easily. What was her curse?
What was the curse? Well, I didn't say, Prabhupada said. I just read what Prabhupada wrote. But what was the curse? Well, it wasn't like, you guys, you're going to get spanked. But the curse is the violation of her sanctity, and she felt, you violated my sanctity. So therefore, that's the curse. No, they didn't do it. Ravana did it. But because Ravana did it, and they're the followers of Ravana, they share some of the responsibility. And that's where this whole issue of, Russia versus Ukraine, who's responsible? And you follow the guy, and you're as responsible as the guy. No, again, it comes down but back to Sita. What was her curse? The curse was, when a woman is not protected, or the opposite, the woman is violated, that's the curse. It's like what they did with Draupadi. She didn't curse them, but, they got cursed by her because they violated her sanctity. That's the curse. The principle of dharma and the violation of the principle of dharma, and one of which is the protection of women, or protection of children, or protection of those that are to be protected. That the curse is the violation of that principle brings about a reaction. Nice question. I like your question.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Online, is it time?
It's 8:30. Go ahead. Somebody's taking the trouble to listen online.
This is from Manideep Prabhu, saying, Maharaj, can you brief about Srila Prabhupada's mentioning about World War III in one of his classes?
Oh, I don't know which class is being referred to. But, the principle of conflagration is since the beginning of time. So what specific reference, I don't know, but it's just a principle. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.